At 73, Margaret proudly embraced living alone, seeing it as a symbol of her independence. But one night changed everything when she collapsed in her kitchen and was left alone for 14 hours with no help. That frightening experience made her realize that independence didn't always mean safety or happiness. Meanwhile, not far away, 92-year-old Elalina Chen was surrounded by laughter and friends at her weekly game night, thriving in ways Margaret only dreamed of. Elalina's story and a groundbreaking Harvard study that followed 700 people for over 80 years reveal a surprising truth. Who you live with after 70 can add years to your life and bring greater joy. Loneliness isn't just an emotional burden. It's a serious health risk, linked to higher rates of dementia, heart disease, and faster aging. Elalina wasn't always this vibrant. After losing her husband and living alone for years, she felt the heavy weight of isolation and its impact on her health. But through years of trial, connection, and learning, she discovered living arrangements that not only preserved her independence but transformed her life. This story isn't just about aging, it's about choosing how to live well, surrounded by the right people who bring life and happiness to your golden years. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Elalina Chen's journey into her 70s began like that of so many other Americans. She had been a librarian for 3 decades, living in the same comfortable Portland home she'd shared with her husband for 30 years. When he passed away, the silence in her house felt enormous, but Elalina was determined not to let herself become a burden. Her 2 grown children, busy with their own lives, lived far across the country. Though they called faithfully every weekend, daily life was hers alone to navigate. She made her meals, paid her bills, and prided herself on keeping her independence. Yet, beneath her calm surface, there was an ache, a subtle, creeping sense of loneliness that she couldn't quite shake off. At first, she brushed it away. After all, she had always been self-sufficient, and the notion of needing someone seemed to contradict everything she believed about aging with dignity. The world told her to age in place, to remain at home, as if the familiar walls would somehow guard her from the hardships of old age. But walls, she would later reflect, don't care if you fall, or if you go days without speaking to another soul. The hidden crisis of loneliness among seniors is rarely discussed openly, but its impact is profound. The U.S. Surgeon General has called loneliness a public health epidemic, warning that chronic isolation can be as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. For older adults, especially those living alone, the statistics are sobering. The risks of dementia, heart disease, and even early death all climb sharply in the absence of regular, meaningful connection. For Elalina, the first signs were subtle: a missed doctor's appointment, a forgotten meal, an afternoon spent talking to the television just for the comfort of a human voice, even if it was only a distant anchor on the evening news. Within 2 years of her husband's passing, her health began to decline in ways she hadn't anticipated. Her doctor told her that her blood pressure was too high and prescribed new medication. Sleep became elusive. She would lie awake for hours, her mind racing with worries about what tomorrow might bring. And though she told friends and family she was just fine, really, she knew deep down that sadness was settling in like a heavy fog. It was only after the fact, with the benefit of hindsight, that Elalina recognized the signs of mild depression. She found herself making excuses to avoid social invitations, convinced she would be a bother. She visited the grocery store more often than necessary, just to exchange a few words with the cashier. On especially quiet days, she left the radio on, hoping to fill the empty rooms with something that sounded like life. What she didn't know then was that loneliness was doing real, measurable harm to her body. Scientific research has shown that perceived social isolation triggers the same fight-or-flight stress response as being in physical danger. The body releases a cascade of stress hormones, including cortisol, which over time can damage the immune system, accelerate aging, and make the brain more vulnerable to cognitive decline. Loneliness, in short, is not just a feeling, it is a health hazard. And yet, for millions of seniors like Ella Lenina, loneliness is often invisible. There is a deep reluctance to admit feeling alone, even to oneself. Pride and generational stoicism play their roles. So does the cultural myth that true independence means refusing help. "I wanted my children to know I could manage," Ella Lenina says. "I thought admitting I was lonely would worry them, or worse, make them think I needed to be taken care of." This denial is quietly reinforced by the narrative of aging in place, as if remaining in the same house guarantees connection and meaning. In reality, place means little without people. Days blurred together, one much like the next. Some weeks, Ella Lenina's only real conversations were with her cat and the clerk at the corner pharmacy. The outside world continued without her, and though she kept up appearances, dressed each day, managed her affairs, she felt more and more like she was fading into the background. Her breaking point came during a severe winter storm that knocked out power in her neighborhood for 3 days. With the heat gone and the refrigerator growing warm, Ella Lenina found herself alone with her thoughts in the dark. No one came to check on her. Her children didn't know about the outage until it was over. Wrapped in blankets, she realized just how vulnerable she had become. "I could have disappeared, and no one would have noticed for weeks," she remembers, the thought chilling her more than the cold ever could. That powerless, isolated moment forced a hard reckoning. For the first time, Ella Lenina allowed herself to consider that her pursuit of independence had come at too high a cost. She began to wonder if the bravest thing she could do was not to push people away, but to invite them in. She resolved to find a new way of living, one that could offer both the dignity she cherished and the connection she so clearly needed. That storm marked the end of her years of solitary pride and the beginning of her search for a healthier, more connected future. And in that decision, she unknowingly stepped onto a path that would transform not just her own life, but the lives of many others who would learn from her story. Experiment 1. Multigenerational living. When Ella Lenina first considered leaving her quiet, familiar home to move in with family, she felt a strange mix of hope and uncertainty. It wasn't a decision she came to overnight. For years, her daughter Sarah had offered gentle invitations, reminding her that their home was always open. After the loneliness of widowhood and the deep vulnerability she'd felt during the power outage, Ella Lenina finally let herself imagine what it might mean to say yes. Sarah and her husband had already prepared a small apartment in their basement, thoughtfully designed with Ella Lenina's comfort in mind. The space had its entrance and bathroom, a sunny window for her favorite houseplants, and shelves for her books and treasured keepsakes. It was meant to offer independence within the embrace of family, a promise that she would never be alone, but also never feel like a guest. The early days felt almost magical. Ella Lenina woke to the lively sounds of breakfast upstairs and joined Sarah and her granddaughter for meals around a bustling table. She shared stories from her childhood, helped with household chores, and sometimes picked up her granddaughter from school, relishing the chance to feel useful and connected. Evenings often ended with a movie or a quiet walk through the neighborhood. For the first time in years, she felt the rhythm of life beating around her again. Sarah, relieved to have her mother close, said she slept better at night knowing Ella Lenina was just downstairs. But as the weeks passed, small tensions began to accumulate, so subtle at first that they were easy to ignore. Ella Lenina, used to her routines, sometimes found herself wishing for a little solitude after a long day of family activity. She hesitated to say no to invitations, not wanting to seem ungrateful. Sarah, on the other hand, took on a new layer of responsibility, feeling the need to check in more often, to include her mother in every family outing, to make sure she never felt left out. This desire to care sometimes became a source of quiet stress. It was the little things that slowly shifted the household dynamic. Decisions about groceries or dinner menus, which used to be simple, now required an extra conversation. Occasionally, Sarah would make plans for Ella Lenina, signing her up for community events, arranging medical appointments, without asking first, believing she was making things easier. Evelina appreciated the help, but sometimes felt her independence was being quietly chipped away. At times, she caught herself missing the privacy of her old home, the ability to decide how she spent every hour of her day. Her teenage granddaughter, at first delighted by the extra company, gradually began to feel her space shrink. She loved her grandmother, but as weeks turned to months, the novelty faded. Privacy became more precious, and Evelina, ever sensitive, noticed when her presence changed the mood. She tried to pull back, but found it difficult in the close quarters of a shared home. The true challenge of multigenerational living, Evelina discovered, wasn't about love or goodwill, it was about boundaries. How much should she contribute to household expenses? Was it her place to step in during family disagreements? When did offering advice become interference? These questions rarely had simple answers. The turning point came during an argument about finances. Wanting to contribute, Evelina insisted on paying her share of the utility bills. Sarah, proud and grateful but also determined to take care of her mother, refused. What started as a gesture of mutual respect became a point of tension. Sarah worried that her mother felt like a burden, while Evelina began to feel more like a dependent than an equal. It was a conversation neither wanted to have, but the tension lingered long after. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Studies show that nearly 70% of multigenerational households run into similar conflicts during their first year. Often, families underestimate the emotional weight of shifting roles. How a mother can become grandma, how a daughter can become caregiver, how independence and togetherness can sometimes pull in opposite directions. For 6 months, Evelina and her family navigated this new landscape. They had joyful moments, holidays spent together, evenings of shared laughter, but the challenges persisted. She sometimes felt she was walking on eggshells, never wanting to cause trouble, never quite sure where she fit in. Sarah, despite her best efforts, felt the growing pressure of being responsible for everyone's happiness. Eventually, with deep love and respect, Evelina decided to move out. It wasn't a dramatic exit or a failure, but a clear-eyed recognition of what each of them needed to thrive. She realized she missed her autonomy, not just the privacy of her own space, but the feeling of being in charge of her days and decisions. For Sarah, letting her mother go was bittersweet, but she saw that Evelina's happiness depended on more than togetherness. Looking back, Evelina is grateful for the experience. It taught her the difference between independence and isolation, between help and control. She learned that successful multigenerational living is possible, but only with open communication, respect for personal boundaries, and a willingness to adapt as a family. For some, it's a beautiful solution. For others, it's a valuable stepping stone on the path to something even better. Through it all, Evelina never lost her commitment to living intentionally. She knew now that the answer to loneliness wasn't simply moving in with loved ones. It was building connections that honored her needs, her voice, and her sense of self. And that realization would shape every choice she made as her journey continued. Experiment 2. Senior Roommate Arrangement. After her experience living with family, Evelina found herself back at a crossroads. The thought of returning to complete solitude didn't sit right with her. She longed for companionship, but she also cherished her independence, a delicate balance she wasn't willing to compromise. That's when an unexpected idea took root: finding a roommate. For many, the notion of sharing a home in your 70s might feel odd, maybe even unsettling, but for Evelina, it became a doorway to possibility. She started at the local senior center, where she came across a bulletin board covered with notes about book clubs, art classes, and, tucked in the corner, a flyer about a senior roommate matching program. Curious, she attended a meet-and-greet event, where she met Dorothy, a 68-year-old retired teacher recently divorced and facing questions about how to move forward. The two women clicked almost immediately, drawn together by a shared sense of adventure and a desire to write the next chapter of their lives on their terms. Before they even set a move-in date, Evelina and Dorothy spent several weeks getting to know each other over coffee. They talked about everything: sleeping habits, cleaning preferences, whether they were morning people or night owls, even their thoughts on pets and politics. Together, they created a kind of compatibility questionnaire, wanting to make sure they could live not just together, but well together. They agreed on the importance of private bedrooms and personal space, but also looked forward to shared meals and evenings spent chatting about books or local news. When the arrangement began, the relief was almost immediate. Household expenses were now split, easing financial burdens for both. Evelina took care of dinner most nights while Dorothy, an early riser, handled breakfast and lunch. They worked out a simple system for household chores, dividing up tasks based on what each preferred. There were no family dynamics to tiptoe around, and both felt free to come and go as they pleased. But the real gift was the emotional comfort. Evelina was no longer worried about having a medical emergency alone. If she slipped in the shower or felt unwell, someone was nearby. At the same time, she wasn't sacrificing her independence or sense of self. Dorothy respected her need for quiet time to read or write, and Evelina encouraged Dorothy's love for gardening and early morning walks. Their differences became strengths, and the companionship was never forced. Over time, Dorothy became much more than just a housemate. She was a travel companion, a partner for game nights, and, in many ways, a chosen family member. They cheered each other on through small challenges, celebrated birthdays, and built new traditions together. There were disagreements, of course, but open communication always brought them back to center. They learned how to compromise, to give each other space when needed, and to share both laughter and silence. Their living arrangement lasted 2 years, 2 of the happiest, most vibrant years Evelina could remember. When Dorothy decided to move closer to her grandchildren, the parting was bittersweet. They promised to visit, knowing that the friendship they had built wouldn't fade with distance. Research backs up Evelina's experience. According to the National Shared Housing Resource Center, senior roommate arrangements have a high rate of success when built on compatibility, clear expectations, and mutual respect. For many older adults, this approach is not just about splitting costs. It's about combating loneliness, sharing life's daily joys, and regaining a sense of security without giving up independence. Reflecting on her time with Dorothy, Evelina realized how powerful intentional relationships could be. She discovered that support and connection don't always come from family. Sometimes, the friends we choose in our later years become the foundation for a truly thriving life. Living with a roommate in her 70s taught her the value of compromise, communication, and trust. Most of all, it gave her the courage to keep seeking the right kind of connection and to never settle for loneliness or isolation. For Evelina, this experiment opened her eyes to new possibilities, and made her believe that the next adventure could be just around the corner. Experiment 3. Intentional Senior Communities, Co-Housing. After Dorothy moved away, Evelina found herself once again contemplating her future and the kind of life she wanted to lead. She had learned that independence and companionship could coexist, but she was also curious about other options. Ones that offered a built-in social structure without the pressure of family dynamics or the intimacy of sharing a single home. That's when she stumbled upon the concept of intentional senior communities, or co-housing. At first, Evelina was skeptical. Like many, she associated senior living with sterile nursing homes or endless bingo nights in quiet retirement villages. But as she began to research, she discovered an entirely different world. One designed for active, independent older adults who wanted to live with purpose and community. Through friends and local organizations, she heard about Sunrise Commons, a co-housing community specifically created for people over 55 who craved connection and autonomy. Sunrise Commons wasn't just a collection of apartments. It was a thoughtfully planned neighborhood with private homes, shared gardens, and a large common house where residents gathered for meals, celebrations, and daily activities. Everyone there had a say in how the community was run, from maintenance decisions to planning social events. Residents could choose solitude in their own fully equipped homes or join group dinners, yoga classes, or gardening clubs whenever they felt like it. Curious and a little apprehensive, Ella Lenina decided to participate in the week-long trial residency program. She stayed in a guest unit, observing and experiencing daily life alongside longtime residents. Each morning, she walked through the central garden, greeted by familiar faces, and each evening she could choose between preparing dinner in her kitchen or joining a communal meal in the common house. There was always an open invitation for coffee, board games, or group walks. What struck Ella Lenina most was the sense of balance. There was genuine friendship and connection, but also profound respect for privacy. People looked out for one another without intruding. The community had a network for mutual aid. Someone might organize grocery runs for those who couldn't drive, or form an impromptu team to help a neighbor recover from surgery. It felt like a small town, but with the energy and creativity of people who refused to be sidelined by age. She saw firsthand the sophisticated systems residents had put in place. Committees for community maintenance, social events, conflict resolution, and welcoming newcomers. Decisions were made by consensus, and everyone's opinion was valued. There was no sense of hierarchy, just neighbors helping neighbors, motivated by shared values of autonomy and inclusion. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. For 4 months, Ella Lenina participated in every aspect of community life at Sunrise Commons. She joined the gardening committee, tried her hand at watercolor painting, and even taught a short course on literature to a group of enthusiastic peers. She felt purposeful and appreciated. But eventually, she recognized that as much as she loved the vibrancy of this community, the constant buzz of social activity sometimes felt overwhelming. She craved the flexibility to slip away when she wanted, to be part of the group on her terms rather than as part of a scheduled routine. Still, her time at Sunrise Commons changed her understanding of what senior living could be. She realized that aging didn't have to mean shrinking your world or living in fear of isolation. In intentional communities like these, older adults could support each other, remain active, and maintain their independence while building deep, meaningful friendships. Research supports what Ella Lenina witnessed. Seniors in co-housing and intentional communities report lower healthcare costs, higher life satisfaction, and stronger social networks than those in traditional housing. Residents are healthier, both physically and mentally, and often remain independent far longer. The key, Ella Lenina learned, is the ability to choose the degree of connection and to belong to a place where contribution and engagement are expected at every age. Though she ultimately decided not to make Sunrise Commons her permanent home, Ella Lenina carried away invaluable lessons about community, purpose, and the power of designing your environment with intention. She began to dream of a living arrangement that would blend the best of all worlds: independence, connection, flexibility, and mutual support. That vision would soon take shape in her next, and most transformative, experiment. Experiment 4. Chosen family clustering. As Ella Lenina moved beyond the structured life of co-housing, a new idea began to take shape, one that wasn't defined by a building or a program, but by intention and chosen relationships. This was the concept she would eventually call chosen family clustering. It wasn't about who you happened to be related to, or even the architecture of your home. It was about actively building a support network with people who shared her values, respected her independence, and wanted to age well together. It started with a simple conversation over tea with her longtime friend Martha. Both women cherished their autonomy but missed the casual companionship of neighbors who looked out for one another. The solution seemed almost too simple: live side by side, but not under the same roof. So, when a small duplex became available in a walkable neighborhood, Ella Lenina and Martha seized the opportunity. Each rented her unit, ensuring privacy, but now they were just steps away from daily check-ins, shared meals, and spontaneous adventures. The success of this arrangement inspired Ella Lenina to think even bigger. She reached out to 6 other women she knew, widows, single women, and a few who had simply outgrown their solitary routines. Together, they formed what they affectionately called the village. This wasn't an exclusive club or a formal community, but an organic, evolving circle of support. They met once a week for dinners that rotated between homes, kept a lively group text for everything from grocery requests to emergency updates, and shared the practical tasks of daily life, rides to appointments, help with technology, or a hand with garden chores. What made the village unique was its flexibility. Participation was always by choice, never obligation. There were no fixed rules or leadership roles, just a shared understanding. Everyone contributed what they could, and everyone was welcome to set their boundaries. If someone needed solitude, that was respected. If they needed help, it was offered without hesitation. Ella Lenina became the designated driver for group outings, Martha handled tech troubles, and Susan, the ever-organized one, planned monthly adventures, a museum visit, a play, or simply a long walk in the park. Over the years, their group became a lifeline. They celebrated birthdays and holidays together, supported one another through illness and grief, and brought joy into ordinary days. Some members moved away, new ones joined, and the circle shifted as life changed. But the core promise remained: no one would face the ups and downs of aging entirely alone. The village wasn't just a group of friends, it was an intentional family, chosen and cherished. Scientific studies affirm what Ella Lenina and her friends discovered through lived experience. Strong, supportive social ties are linked with better health, lower rates of depression, and even longer lives. Unlike traditional family arrangements, chosen families are based on shared interests, values, and mutual respect. There is freedom here. The freedom to engage as much or as little as one wishes, the freedom to create new traditions, and the freedom to shape support in ways that feel authentic and empowering. For Ella Lenina, chosen family clustering provided everything she'd been searching for: connection without loss of independence, practical help without the burdens of obligation, and a deep sense of belonging. She no longer worried about being a burden or facing a crisis alone. The village offered daily reassurance that she mattered, that she was loved, and that her life still had purpose and joy. As she reflected on her journey, Ella Lenina realized that the best arrangement wasn't about a particular place, it was about people. The intentional relationships she built, the trust and care they exchanged, had transformed the later years of her life from a time of survival into a season of thriving. And as their village flourished, it inspired others in the community to create similar circles. Proof that with a little intention, anyone can build the kind of support network that makes growing older not just bearable, but truly beautiful. For years, many people have believed that living a long, healthy life is mostly about genetics, luck, or perhaps diet and exercise. While these things play a role, decades of groundbreaking research tell a different story, one that places our connections to other people at the very center of aging well. No single study has illuminated this truth more powerfully than the Harvard study of adult development, a research effort that began in the late 1930s and has now followed hundreds of participants for over 80 years. Its findings have upended much of what we thought we knew about happiness and longevity. The Harvard study started with a simple question: what factors lead to a long, fulfilling life? Over the decades, researchers meticulously tracked their participants' physical health, professional paths, personal relationships, and moments of triumph and struggle. The answer, after all this time, is remarkably clear. Good relationships keep us healthier and happier, not just in youth, but all the way into old age. It isn't fame or money or even a perfect diet that matters most. It's the quality of the relationships we nurture. That phrase, quality over quantity, is vital. Many people assume that having a large family or a wide social network is the ticket to well-being. In reality, what matters is the depth and meaning of our connections. You might only have a handful of close friends or a small, tight-knit group of loved ones, but if those bonds are genuine, they offer protection against the stress and storms of life. The Harvard study's current director, Dr. Robert Waldinger, put it simply: loneliness kills. It's as powerful as smoking or alcoholism. People who were the most satisfied in their relationships at age 50 were also the healthiest at age 80. But why do these relationships matter so much? The answer, science reveals, is rooted deep in our biology. When we interact with people who make us feel safe and understood, our brains release oxytocin, a hormone sometimes called the cuddle chemical. Oxytocin fosters trust and calms the body's stress response, helping us feel emotionally secure. On the flip side, chronic loneliness floods the body with cortisol, the hormone associated with stress. Over time, high cortisol levels can weaken the immune system, increase inflammation, raise blood pressure, and even impair memory and cognition. Regular, meaningful connection acts as a shield against these negative effects. When Ella Lenina began sharing meals with her chosen family or spent time laughing with her roommate, her brain responded by lowering cortisol and boosting oxytocin. These aren't just fleeting emotions. They produce real, measurable improvements in health. Studies show that people with strong social ties have better immune function, recover faster from illness, and report fewer aches and pains. Even their wounds heal more quickly. Beyond Harvard, other research from around the world has painted a similar picture. Perhaps the most striking comes from the blue zones, regions identified by author and explorer Dan Buettner, where people routinely live into their 90s and beyond. One of the most famous blue zones is Okinawa, Japan, where elders form lifelong social groups called moai. These groups aren't just for friendship. They provide emotional, practical, and sometimes even financial support. Members of a moai check in on each other, share meals, and offer help in times of need. They create a sense of security and belonging that continues for decades. Okinawa's elders have some of the world's lowest rates of heart disease, stroke, and dementia. While diet and activity play a part, the consistent thread running through their lives is social support, the kind that's intentional, reliable, and mutually beneficial. These chosen families, like the one Ella Lenina created, are the living proof of what scientific studies have long suggested. We are, at our core, social creatures, and our health depends on one another. Modern neuroscience backs this up with fascinating detail. Imaging studies have found that the pain of social isolation activates the same brain regions as physical pain. When we are lonely, our bodies interpret it as a threat, triggering a cascade of stress responses designed to push us toward reconnection. Over time, if that loneliness persists, the stress becomes chronic and toxic, leading to higher risks of depression, anxiety, and cognitive decline. Conversely, strong, positive connections activate the brain's reward centers, releasing not just oxytocin but also dopamine and serotonin, chemicals that elevate mood, sharpen thinking, and inspire motivation. This is why people who remain socially active are often more optimistic, energetic, and resilient, even in the face of physical challenges. These findings aren't just academic. For seniors in America and around the world, the right living arrangement, one that supports connection while respecting independence, can change everything. Research on multigenerational households, for instance, shows that when roles and boundaries are clear, older adults experience less loneliness and greater purpose. Co-housing communities, where seniors live independently but share spaces and activities, report not only higher satisfaction but also lower healthcare costs. People who build and maintain robust social capital, the web of relationships that provide emotional and practical help, live longer and enjoy better health, regardless of their background or income. One of the most encouraging insights is that these benefits compound over time. A single act of kindness or connection, a neighbor's visit, a phone call from a friend, may lift the spirit in the moment, but the real power comes from sustained, regular social interaction. Each year spent in community, sharing purpose and support, builds resilience in the body and mind. Blood pressure stabilizes, immune systems stay strong, memory sharpens, and people recover from illness or surgery more quickly. Ella Lenina's story is, in many ways, a living illustration of these truths. In her 70s, when she was most isolated, her health declined rapidly. She developed high blood pressure, struggled with insomnia, and experienced the quiet sadness that comes with too many empty days. But as she made deliberate changes, moving in with family, then sharing a home with a roommate, then joining a co-housing community, and finally building her chosen family village, her health steadily improved. She slept better, needed fewer medications, and found her energy returning. Her doctor was amazed at her recovery, but Elenina herself knew the secret. Each stage brought her closer to the kind of relationships that science says are the true foundation of a long, joyful life. Now, in her 90s, Elenina is a living testament to the cumulative power of social connection. She is not just surviving, she is thriving, surrounded by friends who are family, by laughter, and by a sense of belonging. Her story, supported by decades of research, is a powerful reminder that we are never too old to reach out, to build new bonds, or to start again. For those entering their golden years, the science is clear. The greatest investment you can make in your health is not just in your body, but in your relationships. Nurturing, deep, and real. And as more people embrace this wisdom, building communities of support in whatever form feels right, they are not only adding years to their lives but bringing more life to their years. The benefits are real, profound, and, as Elenina has shown, absolutely within reach at any age. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. After decades of trial, reflection, and research, Elenina realized that there's no one-size-fits-all answer to the question of where, and with whom, one should live after 70. Each of us carries unique needs, preferences, fears, and dreams into our later years. What worked for her neighbor, her daughter, or her friends might not work for her, and vice versa. So, she set about developing a practical framework, one that anyone could use to thoughtfully navigate the big decision of choosing the right living arrangement. It begins, she believes, with honest self-assessment. Over tea one afternoon, she sketched out 5 essential questions, each one designed to help seniors reflect deeply on their needs and guide them toward the environment where they would truly thrive. Question 1. Independence level. She urges everyone to start by honestly rating themselves in 3 areas: physical independence, financial independence, and emotional independence. How easily can you manage daily tasks? Do you feel confident in handling your finances? Are you emotionally resilient, or do you find yourself easily unsettled by change or challenge? Those with high scores across the board have a wider range of choices and may flourish in more autonomous environments. Those with lower scores, however, might prioritize settings where extra support is readily available. Question 2. Social energy style. Next comes the question of social energy. Are you the kind of person who lights up in a crowd and craves frequent gatherings? High social energy? Do you prefer regular but scheduled social interactions? Moderate energy? Or do you find true joy in quiet, meaningful connection with just 1 or 2 people? Low social energy. Recognizing your social battery can help avoid arrangements that leave you either drained or lonely. High-energy seniors may love co-housing or bustling retirement communities. Those with lower social needs might be happier with a roommate or occasional family visits, rather than constant group activities. Question 3. Non-negotiables. Elenina learned the hard way that certain needs simply aren't up for debate. She asks, what are your 5 non-negotiables? Is it private space? Complete financial autonomy? The freedom to make your own choices? Reliable emergency support? Regular social interaction? List them honestly. These become your must-haves, a compass for sifting through the sea of options. She notes that multigenerational living may offer security, but can sometimes limit independence. Living alone can provide autonomy, but might lack vital support. Question 4. Risk tolerance. Change is never easy, especially later in life. That's why the 4th question centers on risk tolerance. How comfortable are you with new situations? With meeting new people, adjusting to unfamiliar routines, or moving to a new neighborhood? High risk tolerance opens the door to bold adventures, intentional communities, co-housing, or even moving across the country for a fresh start. If you're more risk-averse, gradual transitions, small experiments, or family-based solutions might offer more comfort. Question 5. Legacy Vision. Finally, Ella Lenina invites everyone to think about their legacy vision. How do you want to spend your remaining years? Do you want to be surrounded by family, mentoring grandchildren? Do you crave adventure, learning, and new experiences? Or perhaps you feel called to contribute to your community, volunteering or leading social groups. This vision should shape your choice. If your heart is with family, multi-generational homes might fit. If your soul seeks growth, co-housing or chosen family models may be more fulfilling. With these 5 questions answered, Ella Lenina recommends reviewing the common living arrangements through your lens. Co-housing communities are ideal for those who score high in independence and social energy, and who enjoy consensus-based decision-making and shared spaces. Chosen family clusters work well for those who crave deep connection and flexibility, but want to maintain their own home or apartment. Roommate arrangements may suit those with moderate social needs, some desire for privacy, and compatible daily rhythms. Family-based living can provide support and familiarity, but it works best when everyone communicates openly about boundaries and expectations. No matter which path seems right, Ella Lenina always advises, try before you buy. Take small steps, do a trial period with a roommate, stay a few weeks in a retirement community, join group dinners or social clubs to test the waters. Real life rarely matches glossy brochures, and sometimes your heart surprises you when you're living in a new place or arrangement. Most importantly, she emphasizes that the best living arrangement honors both independence and connection. You don't have to choose between them. Life after 70 can be vibrant, purposeful, and filled with companionship if you take time to reflect, experiment, and honor your truest needs. As Ella Lenina often says, don't settle for merely surviving. Build a life, one that fits you perfectly, where you can truly thrive. As the years passed, Ella Lenina's life became living proof that age is not the end of adventure, but the beginning of a new kind of journey, one defined not by circumstance, but by choice and connection. What started as a struggle with loneliness and self-doubt transformed into a chapter rich with laughter, friendship, and deep purpose. She discovered that the secret to thriving in her golden years wasn't found in a particular address or a rigid plan, but in the quality of the relationship she built and the courage to try something new. Her story is a gentle reminder that none of us is meant to walk this path alone. Whether you find comfort in the embrace of family, in the camaraderie of a roommate, in the energy of a vibrant community, or the loving circle of chosen friends, what matters most is finding the balance that honors your independence while keeping you connected. It's never too late to reach out, to build a network of support, or to start fresh. Life after 70 is still life. Messy, unpredictable, and incredibly precious. If Ella Lenina's journey spoke to you, or if you're pondering your next steps, let her wisdom be your encouragement. Explore, experiment, and most of all, stay open to possibility. The golden years can truly shine when you fill them with connection, curiosity, and intention. If you found inspiration in this story, I invite you to join our community here. Subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories, practical advice, and uplifting lessons from wise elders who are redefining what it means to age well. And if you know someone who could benefit from Ella Lenina's journey, please share this video. It might be just the encouragement they need to start their adventure.